So we've got a pond here with some really lovely fish in it. I really love the pattern of this fella. Just looks really unique to me. He's really beautiful. Now here in winter in Sydney, I prefer the fish just a little bit fatter. So if you look at this ginrin here, that I'm slightly worried about but not actually worried about, just in case he has a little bit of dropsy. Now if he's got dropsy, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. You can try giving him some saltwater baths, but I'm not going to make any promises about that. And it's not typically contagious, so there's not much action I'm going to say there. I'm loving this guy. I think he's awesome. Then you've got a ginrin hiatsuri. This is a lovely fish, but this one's a little bit on the skinny side. If you go from the neck, from the gill plates, how it sort of goes out to the tail, especially in winter, I like them holding just a little bit more weight, especially going into winter. Really, the goldfish look quite good, but really the fish look very happy. So we're going to give it a vacuum. We're going to replace the filter. And these sorts of features are absolutely wonderful because these features aerate the water beautifully by thinning the water out. And the other thing is that that's a very large urn and that's going to grow lots of bacteria. So assuming that that stays on, then that's actually a really beautiful surface to grow bacteria. So though it looks nice, it's also very functional for the fish. But there's good water flow in here, and really everyone looks quite good. I would probably just watch the food. I'd probably want to feed a little bit more. And the two foods that I'm very biased towards is Spectrum's probiotics. And that's because probiotic has the probiotic bacteria in the food, which means when the fish poo, the bacteria in the poo eats the poo. So it does tend to keep the pond cleaner. And it's also a cold extruded food, so it's not a pressure cooked processed food, because most fish food is just processed crap in a can. So Spectrum's probiotics is my favorite. And also I'd probably giving these fish a little bit of Denichi color, because I just find that it's for just pure fish quality and pure color. I don't think you can beat Denichi color. So they're my two favorite foods. And I'd like these guys fed a little bit more. I'd just like a little bit more of a belly. But other than that, I'm looking at a bunch of very happy fish. Keeping is 50% water quality and 50% food quality. So the water quality here is actually quite good. pH is alkaline, basically no nitrite, basically no nitrate. KH is a little bit low, it's sort of 2 or 3. That's not the end of the world, but maybe I'd prefer it just a little bit higher, not too stressed. And the GH does seem relatively high. Now the GH can be high if water agent is overdosed, or there are various things that can raise your GH in your water, but that's something I'm totally okay with. So there's no big alarms here. Having pond plants like this are really quite good for your pond, but as it starts to overgrow, I would recommend ripping some of it out, because when you rip it out, you remove the nutrients that the plant has taken up, and we also don't really want this taking over. One of the best things you can do for your pond on a semi-regular basis is just grab your fish net and just give it a scoopy scoop, because each one of these leaves that you're pulling out of the pond means that they don't break down and then turn into sediment and sludge and everything else. So just a regular scoop is really wonderful. So now what I'm doing is literally giving the pond a vacuum. And it's good to regularly go and get all the crap off the bottom of the pond. And this vacuum's ideal for that. The bits with lots of leaves, it's probably better just to scoop it out with the net and then use the vacuum for the cleaner bits. As far as the filter is concerned, the bigger the better. But you've also got to consider how hard the filters are to clean. Like these things, for example, for what they are, they're actually pretty effective. And they're actually very cheap to buy. But every time that I clean one, I feel like throwing it over the fence. So what we're doing now is replacing it for a Laguna, which has a more efficient backwash, and it's a lot easier to clean. It's better to have something that's manageable and cleanable than something bigger that you can't clean. Otherwise, you may have a temper tantrum, and they don't always end up well. And also, all these units have got a UV, and you really want to be replacing that UV about once a year. And whenever you install a new filter, such as that one, we actually don't want to turn the UV on straight away. We want to let the good bacteria get in the filter before we turn the UV on. What's going on here is we're putting a new filter in, and the old filter is well and truly ready for a clean. But what I'm actually a bit scared of, I'm a bit scared of totally removing the old filter, because I want to keep a lot of that good bacteria media. So what I'm going to do is wash that fun sponge in water that I take from the pond. And then I'm going to put those sponges in the pond temporarily, so I keep the good bacteria in the system. Then after several weeks, if need be, the sponge can be thrown out, because by then I should have good bacteria in the filter, and then I'm not worried. But I'm definitely worried about pulling all that good bacteria off when it's an otherwise sort of clean pond. It's not like there's gravel or other medias for lots of good bacteria. So I'm sort of valuing that good bacteria. So I'm going to put that secured in here somewhere, so I keep the good bacteria. And that can either stay there forever, and it'll do the job of providing bacteria, assuming that there's water flow, which this pond definitely has. Otherwise, if the sponge has to be removed and we rely on the filter, in a month or so's time, that's totally fine, because then I'll have the good bacteria in the filter, and then I'd like to turn the UV on, and that's when we'll start getting better results out of the pond. And this one's got the backwash function, where you can also sort of flush the side using these pumps, and that makes your backwash more efficient. So the more often that you're backwashing this, the more efficient it will be. He's hidden the sponges from the last filter underneath here to make sure they're still in the water. There's no reason why they ever need to be moved. They will collect a lot of crap, and every now and then it would be good to get them out, wring them in tank water from the pond, put them back, or chuck them out, whatever you want. Setting up the new filter, we've now got our rocks in the bottom. They'll grow lots of good bacteria. It's important to keep them clean using water from the fish pond, never water from the tap. Then we've got our filter sponges. In general, you just backwash them, and then you've got these handles that you pump on, which help to clean the filter sponges. Once a year or something, it would be a good idea just to take this apart, give it a good clean, dump water from the pond on the filter, make sure it's all clean on the inside. That'd be a good little annual job or 6-month job. If you ever find the filter not as powerful as it was, then do a backwash, pump on the handles. If that's not doing a good enough job, which every 6 to 12 months I imagine it wouldn't, then you just pull it out, then you clean it all in water from the pond, and then you put it back together again. And remember that the UV tube needs replacing yearly, and the quartz sleeve, you'd replace that anytime you're doing anything major with the pond. Every filter will have an O-ring of some description, and over time the O-ring does deteriorate. So if you do find the filter leaking, sometimes it's just a matter of vaselining the O-ring, might get it a bit more life. Otherwise, just clean up the O-ring, replace it, that might work. Otherwise, if it's old enough and it's starting to crack, then whack a new O-ring on and you should be good to go again. But never put your filter together without your O-ring, otherwise it's nice and messy. Now these Laguna filters are very easy to work with, because these clips are really easy to pull off. And what we've got here is a flow meter thing, which the little red will pop up in the center when the filter needs cleaning, or if you notice the flow reducing, then it needs cleaning. And when it needs cleaning, what we're going to do is we're going to pop this off. That's just an end cap. Then we're going to switch this over to backwash. Right now it's clean, but you'll find all dirt coming out there. Then we're going to pull on these handles, and that cleans the sponge. Once that comes out clean, after you've pulled on those handles, then you can switch it back. Then we can pop this back on, and there is a different nib that you could put on and attach a hose to it if you wanted that to go somewhere else. So it's a very easy filter to use. And then when you do plug it in, which is not now because it's we've got to let the good bacteria establish in there, you'll see the light on the top, and you'll see that light up, and that means the UV's on. Time to fill this pond up. This pond has very good water flow. Water flow here, water flow there, water flow here, water flow there. This whole thing works as you saw earlier. Now the only dead spot was here, and I've now installed another pump here, so our water flow here is excellent as well. So that all should keep the pond nice and clean. Now when we're filling the pond up, we are going to add some KH powder, because the KH of this pond was actually a little bit low. And every 5 centimeters, we got to add a full dose of water rager to make sure we don't get any chlorine in the water.